Have you ever stood at a crossroads where one path felt safe but the other felt terrifying, yet somehow necessary? I was faced with making a $10,000 investment commitment when I only had £200 left in my bank account. Everybody told me to play it safe, and today that single decision led to a $36,000 in sales the very next month and completely transformed how I approach business. But that was just the beginning. That same mindset has now helped multiple clients break through to over $100,000 per month and experience quantum leaps in their business that they never thought was possible. So what if I told you the difference between struggling at 5K a month and breaking 100K isn't more knowledge or another strategy, but it's your willingness to invest in yourself when it feels uncomfortable. So if you're new here, I'm Luke Anning, a former growth partner at a 7-figure company and host of a Top 2% podcast. For the past 4 years, I've been coaching entrepreneurs. It wasn't always like this. Just a few years back, I'd left my job in construction, then moved on to music events, working 2 jobs, getting 5 hours of sleep a night, and watching my bank account hover near over zero. I had all these business dreams of being the best in the industry, but I kept making the wrong investments in my time, energy, and money. Like I bought this super cheap coach that had promised he was the best in the industry, and it was a bag of garbage. But after months of this cycle, I realized that something had to change. And I was so sick of my own situation that I made a decision that terrified me. I committed to a $10,000 program that promised the one-to-one support that I actually needed, even though I only had £200 to my name. And in my head, I was thinking, I can't afford this. Like, logically, this doesn't make sense. And logically, they were like, these thoughts were right. But here's what I discovered and what I'm going to show you today. There are specific mindset shifts around investing into yourself that separate those who stay stuck from those who break through. And these aren't just fluffy concepts. They're actually practical frameworks that completely transformed how I make decisions, led to 36,000 in sales the next month, as well as my 7-figure growth partnership. And in this video, I want to walk you through the 3 powerful mindset shifts that took me from hesitating over every investment to confidently making decisions that have 10x my returns. So you're going to learn how to tell the difference between a true investment and just another expense, a simple calculation that reveals the true cost of inaction in your business, and the return on identity framework that makes every investment decision clearer. So whether you're struggling with hiring that next team member, joining a mastermind, investing into a coach, considering going fully remote with your business, or making a shift or a transition, or you're in a transitionary period, these principles apply universally to any business growth decision. But before we dive in, let's talk about the real problem that keeps most entrepreneurs stuck year after year. So the real problem here is something called investment paralysis. Investment paralysis. That moment when you know deep down that you need to invest in yourself or your business, but something ultimately stops you. And it's fascinating because this is actually self-sabotage. And the stats are pretty eye-opening. According to research by the National Small Business Association, 73% of entrepreneurs identify lack of capital as their biggest obstacle to growth. But here's what's fascinating. When you dig deeper, it's rarely just about the money. So think about it. How many times have you told yourself, I can't afford to invest in that right now, but simultaneously spent money on things that don't move your business forward? We've all been there. I know I have. What's really happening in these moments is a battle between 2 versions of yourself, your past self and your future self. Your past self is comfortable with the status quo, but they are fearful of change. They're protective of resources. And your future self is growth-minded, ambitious, and willing to take consistent risks, because without risk, there is no reward. And here's the brutal truth. Only one of these selves will get what they want. And every time you make a decision about where to invest your resources, you're choosing which self wins. Now, the real cost of this isn't just financial, it's existential. So when I look back at periods in my business where I was stuck, it wasn't a lack of knowledge that was holding me back. It was my unwillingness to surrender and get support and systems and development that I needed. So let me show you what this actually costs. So the average entrepreneur who stays stuck at 5 to 10K a month is leaving anywhere between 60 to 120K on the table every year they don't break through, because that's what they're making. So can you imagine what the potential is if you shift? But that's just the beginning. Like, the hidden costs here are even greater. So the stress of constant financial uncertainty, the strain on relationships, the frustration, the loss of confidence as you watch others succeed in your circles where you're struggling, and perhaps most painfully, the slow death of this vision that got you started in the first place. But what if I told you that there's a simple shift in how you approach investment decisions that could change everything? There are specific frameworks that can help you make these decisions with clarity and confidence instead of fear and doubt. And that's exactly what I discovered from my own journey. And it's what I want to share with you today. So starting with the most fundamental shift of all is understanding the true difference between a cost and an investment. So let's dive into mindset shift number one. The first mindset shift that changed everything for me was truly understanding the difference between a cost and investment. This sounds simple, but most entrepreneurs get this fundamentally wrong. So a cost is something that takes money out of your pocket and keeps it out. An investment is something that takes money out of your pocket today to put more back into tomorrow. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is crucial. What makes something a cost or an investment isn't the thing itself, it's your relationship to it and how you use it. So let me give you a personal example. I invested $10,000 into my first mentor, did well, made 10K in my first 32 days. And then I went into their next program where I spent $3,000 a month, $18,000 on a mastermind. And I thought I was making an investment, but I approached it more passively. So I expected results just from being in the room. I didn't implement, I didn't leverage the connections, I didn't do the work as much as I needed. And guess what? That $18,000 investment became just a cost. But when I committed to that $10,000 program with only £200 in my bank account, which was the next investment past this, I approached it differently because I knew I had to make it work and I had one-to-one support to help me grow. So I implemented everything immediately. I reached out for support whenever I was stuck. I leveraged every resource I was given available, and the result was $36,000 in sales the very next month. For context, I ran 2 webinars, and I sold 4 packages at $9,000 each. So that's the difference between a cost and investment. So how do you evaluate whether something is going to be a cost or an investment before you put your money down? So I've developed a simple framework here that I use for every decision. So first, ask yourself, will this continue to produce value after I pay for it? If the answer is no, it's probably a cost. Second, does this have the potential to produce more value than what I'm putting in? If no, probably a cost. And third, and this is the one that most people miss, am I committed to doing what's necessary to extract the full value? Because even the best opportunity becomes a cost if you don't use it. So let me show you a quick example of how this plays out in real life. One of my clients, Taylor, was hesitating about investing herself when we first connected. She had a small business making about $1,000 a month, but was working excessive hours, feeling stuck. And a year later, we reconnected. Only this time, she had a new baby at home. The investment seemed even more risky. By traditional thinking, you might think, oh, you know what, she couldn't afford it. She'd had, in between when we'd spoke and when we spoke again, she'd had some 4K months and 1K months, but she was stuck. It was roller coastering. But have a think about this. If this investment could help her streamline her services, improve her pricing strategy, get clarity and action stepping frameworks that are going to move her forwards and get her just a few more clients, it would pay for itself many, many, many times over. And more importantly, it would give her both the income stability and time flexibility she needed as a new mother. So Taylor took the leap, and within just a few months, she had increased her monthly revenue to just over $7,000. $7,000 cash collected, while actually working fewer hours, having more ease, more fun in her business. And she was able to be more present with her child while creating the financial foundation for her family needed. And that's the power of reframing from cost to investment. Because when you understand what you're really investing, not just business tactics, but becoming the version of yourself who can achieve these results, the decision becomes much clearer. And the biggest mistake that I see entrepreneurs making is evaluating investments based on what they can choose comfortably right now. But this keeps your past self in control. Your past self will always choose comfort over growth. Your future self evaluates investments based on the return they'll generate and the problems they'll solve. And this is the mindset shift that separates those who stay stuck from those who break through. And here's the key insight. Every time you choose not to invest in something that could move you forward because it feels uncomfortable or risky, you're choosing your past self over your future self. You are wiring yourself to always play it safe. You're literally prioritizing who you've been for the last years over who you could have become. And think about that for a second. Like, who do you want to win? Who do you want to win this battle? The you that's comfortable with where you are now, or the you that's capable of so much more? So now that you understand how to distinguish between costs and investments, let's talk about something even more powerful. And that's calculating the real cost of inaction in your business. So this is mindset shift number 2, which is the opportunity cost calculation. And the second mindset shift that transformed my approach to investing in myself is understanding and calculating opportunity cost. Blessed for me, I took economics at college. Even though I didn't get the best grade, we didn't have fun. We didn't have a lot of fun with my mentoring. This concept also completely changed how I make decisions, and I believe it's one of the most powerful mental tools any entrepreneur can develop. So what exactly is opportunity cost? Simply put, opportunity cost is the cost of the next best alternative. Or in other words, it's what you give up when you choose one option over another. It's not just about the money you spend, it's about the potential gains you forfeit by not taking a particular action. So most entrepreneurs only look at the direct cost of an investment. This coaching program costs $10,000, but they completely miss the larger number, what it costs them not to make that investment. So let me share with you how this hit me personally. When I was debating that $10,000 investment with only £200 left in my bank account, I initially only focused on the risk. Like, oh shit, $10,000 is a lot of money when you're broke. And I kept thinking that. But then I asked myself a different question. What will it cost me if I don't do this? And I was roller coastering at the time from anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 a month. And it was just roller coastering up and down, up and down, up and down. And I was struggling to grow. I was stuck in loops of self-sabotage. I couldn't trust myself. I was overworking. And I was just a mess. I didn't have any solid relationships at the time. And I sat down and calculated, like, if this investment helped me add just $5,000 more per month to my business, that would be 60K over the next year. And at 60K, suddenly the $10,000 didn't seem like a big number anymore. The 60,000 I'd be leaving on the table was the real cost, as well as not having the skill sets to trust myself, not having the systems to build the life that I wanted, not being able to travel full time and being stuck at my parents. Like, hell no. Like, I was 24 at the time, and that was not an option. And that shift in perspective gave me the courage to commit. And as I mentioned, I made $36,000 in sales the very next month, which far exceeded even my optimistic projections. So let me walk you through how to calculate the opportunity cost for any investment decision you're facing. First is you're going to identify your current monthly revenue and where you're stuck. Second is estimate a conservative improvement if this investment works. Maybe that's 20%, 30, 40, 50% growth. Maybe it's even a new revenue stream. Maybe it's a time saved that allows you to serve more clients because you're getting a new team member. Third is project that improvement over the next 12 months. So $5,000 would be $60,000. $10,000 would be $120,000. $100,000 would be 1.2 million. And then subtract the investment amount from that 12-month figure. The result is your potential opportunity cost, or what you're giving up by not making the investment. So, example, one of my clients, Justin, was hesitating about investing into a sales program that we'd mapped out as part of his growth strategy. It cost $9,000, which seemed like a big expense for his business that was making about $25K a month. Now, when we calculated the opportunity cost, though, we realized that this would free him up from training his salesperson. So that's a lot of time, and allow him to step into even higher leverage work and get more time back for himself. So even if he converted that 3 more clients a month, which his price of service at the time was around $3,500, that would be an extra $10,500 a month, or $126,000 a year. And suddenly, the $9,000 investment doesn't actually seem that high compared to the potential 6-figure return. You know, a few extra sales a month would have covered the investment. And the crazy thing is, Justin invested in the mentor, and 2 months later, with my help, he made $101,000 in a single month. That's an increase that could translate to around 1.2 million per year if sustained. Then you've got Taylor, who started working with me when she was making just $1,000 a month with an 8-month-old daughter. We'd had that chat the year before. And she knew when she finally decided to invest that it was because she realized that as a mother, she didn't have time to waste. She knew that her future self, the one who could provide security and opportunities for her daughter, needed different decisions than her past self had made. And that's why she hit just over a $7,000 month in just a few months later, all while being a better present parent for her kid. And I want you to do this calculation right now for an investment that you're considering. Pause the video if you need to. What's your current monthly revenue? What would a conservative improvement look like if the investment works as intended? And project that over 12 months. And then subtract the investment cost. That number, that is what you're potentially giving up by not taking action. That's the real cost of staying comfortable. And here's the breakthrough realization that comes from this calculation. In most cases, the cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of the investment itself. Because when your past self is making decisions, it only sees the money going out today. When your future self makes decisions, it sees both the money going out and the potential not being realized. So every time you say, I can't afford this, your future self is screaming, you can't afford not to make this. The question becomes, which voice are you going to decide to listen to? So now that you understand how to calculate the true cost of not investing in yourself, let's explore the third and most powerful mindset shift. And this is what I call the return on identity. So Return on identity. The third mindset shift, and this is the most powerful one of all, but it's also the least understood. I call it the return on identity, and it completely reframes how you think about investing into yourself. We've all heard of return on investment, ROI, but there's a deeper metric that determines your true results, which is return on identity, or what I call the real ROI. Here's what I mean. Traditional ROI measures dollars in versus dollars out, but return on identity measures who you become in the process of making that investment. And who you become is completely different to just dollars in, dollars out. Now, let me break this down. There's two fundamentally different versions or different types of investments you can make. One is skill-based investments that give you new tactics, strategies, knowledge. These are valuable, but they're limited by how well they fit your current identity. Identity-based investments, on the other hand, transform who you believe you are and what you believe is possible. These investments create exponential returns because they change every decision you make afterward. So, for example, when I made the $10,000 investment with only £200 left in my bank account, deciding, do I invest in my car insurance or do I invest in this program? What really changed wasn't just the tactics I learned. What changed was who I became in the process. I went from somebody who played small, played safe, to someone who was willing to bet on themselves. I went from somebody who was waiting for the right time to somebody who created the right time through decisive action. That identity shift was far more worth than the 36K in sales I made the next month. Far more better than becoming a 7-figure growth partner. It was worth every success I've had since because it fundamentally changed how I approach every opportunity and challenge. So how do you actually identify these investments that will give you the greatest return on investment? Look for these 4 characteristics. First, they should scare you a little bit, maybe a lot. And if an investment makes you feel completely comfortable, it's probably not going to transform your identity. Secondly, they should put you in proximity of people operating a level beyond where you currently are. Your identity is shaped by your environment and the 5 people you spend the most time with. Third, they should demand more from you than you're currently giving. Great investments stretch you beyond your current capabilities. And fourth, they should align with your values and vision, not someone else's definition of success. The most powerful identity shifts happen when you're becoming more of who you truly want to be, but not who you think you should be. So let me share with you a powerful example of another client. So Joanna, at 63 years old, Joanna was already successful in a lot of ways. She'd built a business called Family Law Cafe, providing online legal services that made her clients' lives easier. Her idea is super innovative. We've done some awesome work together, and her business was making money. But something was holding her back from scaling to the level that she knew was possible. So despite having invested in numerous programs, listened to thousands of podcasts over the years, she found herself stuck and struggling to delegate and truly stepping into leadership. And when I first spoke with Joanna, these are her exact words. She told me, I knew I had a good team. I knew they were infused, but I wasn't letting them do what they could do. I wasn't letting them shine. And for years, she'd been working in her business rather than on it. She was caught in this loop of learning without implementing, of knowing but not doing. And when Joanna decided to invest in coaching, it wasn't just about learning new business strategies. It was about becoming a different kind of leader, about transforming her identity from someone who had to control everything to someone who could empower others. So within just 2 weeks of working together, Joanna had delegated 85% of her workload to her team. She'd shifted from micromanaging to truly leading. And one of her team members even said in a meeting, I love the way we're all on team calls. Everyone's working towards the same goal. Everyone's really excited and I love working here. By the way, you can see this transformation up here. And the financial results have been incredible. Joanna has hit her target revenue that would put her on track for £1 million in annual turnover, but the identity shift was even more profound. As Joanna put it, I was scared to lead. I thought if I work very hard, that's enough, and it isn't. It's not about how hard you work. It is, I will always be motivated, but it's how you lead, and I've been learning to lead much better. This identity transformation extends beyond business. Her relationship with her partner improved dramatically. She told me, my partner's just laughing and smiling all the time now because I'm just good to be with now. He's so happy. He can't believe he's just got such a lovely, happy, amazing partner. And that's the power of return on identity. The identity transformation just explodes everything else. The investment Joanna made wasn't just in business. It wasn't just in helping her get out of her own way and stop self-sabotaging. It was in becoming a version of herself who could lead continually and lead confidently and reach her potential, delegate effectively, and live fully. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, yeah, this sounds great, but what if the investment doesn't work out? What if I lose all my money and don't get the return? And this is where the concept of return on identity is so powerful. Even if an investment doesn't deliver the exact financial outcome you expected, if it transforms who you are and how you can operate, it can never truly fail. That's why every investment I've ever made pushed me to become a different person. Even the ones that didn't work out financially, I took golden nuggets and I grew. And it's contributed to who I am today. The failures taught me as much as the successes, sometimes even more. And your past self makes investments based on what feels safe and what has immediate guaranteed returns. Your future self makes investments based on who you need to become to achieve your vision. Every time you choose an identity level investment, one that forces you to grow, stretch, and transform, your future self wins. And with each win, your future self's vision becomes clearer and more compelling. So now that you understand these three mindset shifts, cost versus investment, opportunity cost calculation, and return on identity, let's talk about how to apply them to make more confident decisions, even when you're feeling uncertain or afraid. So now that you understand these three mindset shifts, let's put them into action with a framework that will transform how you make investment decisions moving forward. And this isn't about a complicated formula or spreadsheet trying to calculate madness, although these can be really helpful tools. This is about asking yourself the right questions that reveal what your future self already knows. So when I was standing at the crossroads, £200 in my bank account, 10K decision to make, I didn't have a formal framework. I made a decision largely on intuition and desperation. But looking back, I realized I was unconsciously asking myself powerful questions that changed everything. And I've since refined these questions into what I call the future self-decision framework. These are the exact questions I use before making significant investments in myself or my business. And they've helped me avoid costly decisions as well, while identifying the opportunities that actually made the most sense. So the first question is, what would it be worth to you to go from where you are now to where you want to be? What would it be worth to you to go from where you are now to where you want to be? And this question immediately forces you to quantify the value of transformation. So it's not just about this dollar and the amount of investment. It's about the gap between where your current reality is and your desired future. So Justin, for example, considered the 9K sales program. We started by asking him this question. Justin was making about 25K a month in his business. He'd actually dropped up and made a little bit more after that, after we initially started, coming up towards the 57K a month mark. But he knew he was capable of much more. And he'd hit a ceiling because he was personally handling all the sales training and couldn't scale beyond his own capacity. And when he asked himself, what would it be worth to break through that ceiling? He didn't just think about making a few more sales. He thought about what would it be worth to build a business that could run without him being the bottleneck, a business that could potentially hit 6 figures a month. His answer was, it would be worth everything. And this clarity immediately shifted his perspective from, can I afford $9,000 to, can I afford not to make this investment? Now, the second question for you is what recurring problem would this investment solve? Now, this is a game changer because it helps you distinguish between the band-aid solutions and true problem-solving investments. So when I was considering making the 10K investment, I realized it would solve my recurring problem of inconsistent self-trust, inconsistent strategy, and inconsistent implementation. Something that had been costing me for my first year. That's why I was doing 100-hour work weeks at times, because it just, I mean, I'd say it was 100-hour work weeks, and then I analyzed my time with this one-to-one coach, and I realized I was wasting like 4 hours a day procrastinating and scrolling. Now, for Justin, the recurring problem was clear. He couldn't scale his sales team without sacrificing quality, and he was the bottleneck in his own business. But a sales program would solve this permanently by creating systems his team could follow without his constant involvement. Now, take a moment to think about your biggest recurring problem in your business or yourself. It might be self-sabotage right now. And maybe it's inconsistent client acquisition. Maybe it's inefficient operations. Maybe it's a lack of clarity about your next steps. Maybe it's getting that next team member. Maybe it's you have toxic behavior patterns that you know don't help you and you haven't been able to get past them yet. Maybe you are inconsistent with how you show up as a leader. Now, what investment could solve that problem permanently rather than temporarily? What investment could solve that problem permanently rather than temporarily? Now, the third question cuts straight to the heart of the past self versus future self battle, which is, what is the real price of remaining your past self for another year? What is the real price of remaining your past self for another year? The question forces you to confront the true cost of inaction we talked about earlier, but it goes deeper. It's not just about the money left on the table. It's about your identity, who you are choosing to be. So for Justin, the real price wasn't just staying at 25K a month. It was remaining the person who couldn't let go of control, who couldn't truly lead, who was always a limiting factor in his own business. The price is so much higher to pay. Now, the fourth question brings your future self into this conversation, which is, what would your future self, the one who makes decisions outside of their comfort zone consistently, is committed to growth and is where they want to be, what advice would they give you? So let me repeat it so you can write it down. What would your future self, the one who makes decisions outside of their comfort zone consistently, is committed to growth and is where they want to be, what advice would they give you? And this question creates separation between your current thinking and your wisest self. It's like consulting the version of you who has already solved the problem. And when Justin asked himself this question, the answer was immediate. Stop trying to do everything yourself and invest in systems that scale. So his future self could see clearly what his present self was struggling to accept. That this investment wasn't an expense, but a doorway to becoming the leader his business needed him to be. And finally, the fifth question is the one that brings it all together. So what do you need to do differently? What do you need to do differently? And I love this question because it just demands action. It's not theoretical, it's just straight practical. It forces you to identify the specific change required. So for Justin, the answer was clear. I need to invest in this. I need to go and get this client. I need to go and get this coach. And this clarity led to decisive action. So Justin invested in the sales program. And as I mentioned earlier, within just 2 months, he hit 101K in monthly cash collected. And that's a transformation that represents a potential $1.2 million in annual increase. And it wasn't just Justin. Taylor, with her 8-month-old daughter, used these similar questions to overcome her fear of investing money when it felt tight. And she realized her future self, the one who could provide security and opportunities for her daughter, would tell her to invest right now rather than waiting for the perfect time that would never come. And when she asked herself what would she needed to do differently, the answer wasn't going to stop her from trying to figure out everything all by herself and get the support she actually needed immediately. And within just 4 months, She increased her monthly revenue from 1K to 7K, or just over 7K. Now, I want you to take a moment here and think about an investment decision you're currently facing. It might be hiring a coach, it might be joining a program, it might be bringing on a team member or investing in new systems, it might be overcoming self-sabotage, whatever that is. Run it through these 5 questions. 1, what would it be worth to you to go from where you are now to where you want to be? Number 2, what recurring problem would this investment solve permanently? 3, what is the real price of remaining your past self for another year? 4, what would your future self, the one who makes decisions outside of their comfort zone consistently, is committed to growth and is where they want to be, what advice would they give you? Number 5, so what do you need to do differently? Now you might be thinking, but Luke, I still don't know how I can afford this investment. And that's where we need to recognize something important. Affordability is rarely the real issue. When we say, I can't afford it, what we're often saying is, I don't value this investment enough for me to find a way to afford it. Because the truth is, when something becomes a true priority, we find a way. I didn't afford that $10,000 investment with £200 in my bank account. I made a decision that it was worth finding a way to make it happen. I practically begged the coach to work with me. And that's the difference between your past self's approach to money and your future self's approach. With these mindset shifts and this decision framework, you know you have the tools to make your investment decisions from a completely different place. One that prioritizes your future self over your past self. But knowing isn't enough. You need to see what's truly possible when you apply these principles consistently. So let me know bullshit, show you some real world transformations that will make this even more concrete. So I've been talking about the mindset shifts, the frameworks, but now let's get concrete, because ultimately this isn't about thinking differently. It's about getting dramatically different results in your business and life. So Justin's transformation, because it illustrates exactly what happens when you make decisions from your future self instead of your past self. Before working with me, Justin was stuck at 25K a month. He had good ideas, solid services, even a small team, but he couldn't break through that next ceiling. Why? Because he was caught in a loop of trying to do everything himself. And his past self was making decisions based on fear of letting go, fear of things not being done the right way, fear of investing in systems when he could just work harder himself. But when he applied the mindset shifts we talked about today, particularly understanding return on identity, everything changed. He invested in me. That took him to 57K. He invested in a sales program we discussed, not just to learn sales tactics, but to actually become a different kind of leader. And within the first month, he jumped to 57K a month. We have the testimonial up on my program. And then something interesting happened. He took an entire month off to go kayaking. His past self would never have allowed that. But his new identity as a business owner who builds systems rather than being the system made it possible. And the most remarkable part about this is when he came back from that month off, his business didn't collapse. In fact, it thrived even more. And the very next month, he hit 101K in cash collected. That's a 400% increase in just a few months. 1.2 million in annual difference. But the financial transformation is just the beginning. Justin now has freedom, confidence. He's now going to the gym. He's explored some different relationships. And he has a completely different relationship with his business. Taylor shows that whatever stage you're at in business, when she started working with me, she had just hit a $1,000 month whilst caring for her 8-month-old daughter. Now, many would say, wait until your kid is older, or this isn't the right time to invest. That's past self-thinking. It prioritizes short-term comfort over long-term transformation. Taylor knew that as a mother, she couldn't afford to wait. Her future self, the one who could provide security and opportunities for her daughter, needed different decisions. And she made the investment even though it felt uncomfortable. She questioned her past beliefs about money, questioned her past beliefs about success, and what was possible for her. She embraced a new identity as a successful entrepreneur who happens to be a mother, but not a mother who happens to dabble in business. Within a few months, she went all in, took action, and grew her cash to just over 7K a month, all while being more present for her daughter than ever before. And the question is why? Because she built systems, built boundaries that served both her business and her family. We did the inner work, we did the outer work, and she got out of her own way and started reaching her potential. And these transformations happen across industries and business models. So Chris came to me making 5K a month as a coach and consultant, but he knew he needed to step up financially for his family. So together we mapped out what he needed to do to transform, and not just his business, but his entire approach to provide for his loved ones. He also had ADHD, also had some confidence issues, but by choosing to invest in himself, Chris generated $60,000 over the next 4 months. And that is a massive shift that comes from embracing his future self as the provider he knew he could be. Then there's Ellie's story, which is one of the most powerful transformations I find. All of my clients are transformational, but I like to add this one in depth. So when she met me, Ellie had already invested 10K into coaches with 0 results to show for it. And she felt stuck, she felt skeptical, but she had a vision. The challenge was she was super multifaceted. She was doing social media, she had an Etsy store, she had this coaching business she was trying to get off the ground. She was doing a lot. And what she needed was the inner mindset, the emotional regulation, and the outer systems, plus the accountability to follow through. And by outer systems, I mean time, energy, dialing in her business systems so that she has a business that she wants rather than one that just runs her. And within 3 months of working together, Ellie gained 6 coaching clients, and she'd never had coaching clients before. And she expanded her Etsy store from 2 stores to over 23 in a month across the US, bringing her monthly revenue to over $12,000. And now she's in over 125 stores since we coached. But the most beautiful part of this is by the time we finished working together, Ellie had built herself systems that a few months later allowed her to get pregnant, and 9 months later had her baby and had all the systems in place to not stress about cash flow. Her business was earning while she was at home with her newborn. And Ellie later told me she was so hyped to find somebody who finally fucks with her on her vibe. And sometimes the right investment isn't just about strategies. It's about finding somebody who understands your unique approach to business and life. And even for my own journey, this continues to unfold this way. That initial 10K investment led to 36K the next month. And that led me to traveling all across Iceland and all across America and all across Canada. And since then, I've continued to make decisions based on who I wanted to become, not just what I wanted to have. These identity-based investments led me to becoming a growth partner with my ex-girlfriend in a company doing 300K a month. And that opportunity would never have come my way if I hadn't first invested in becoming the kind of person who could recognize and seize it. And I've invested hundreds of thousands in my growth, in coaches, programs, live events, team members who can do things better for me than I can. Each investment builds on the last, creating compound growth that would have been impossible if my past self remained in control. Now, even today, I don't evaluate potential investments based solely on immediate ROI. I ask, who will I become through this process? What new identity will I step into? Just this week, I invested in a high-level hypnotist. And a couple of weeks back, I made my biggest investment yet into a client success delivery specialist that worked with Alex Hormozy. And my past self would have run screaming from that invoice. But my future self saw the identity transformation that would come from being in a room with entrepreneurs operating at the next level. And the same transformation is available to you right now. Whether you're making 1K a month like Taylor was, 5K a month like Chris was, 25K a month like Justin was, just under 50K a month like Joanna was, or even if you're just getting started, your future self is waiting for you to make decisions that align with their vision, not your past limitations. So now you understand the 3 mindset shifts that transform how you approach investing in yourself. You have a practical framework for making decisions that your future self would thank you for. The only question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Because let's talk about your next steps. We've covered a lot of ground today, and I want to take a moment to recap the 3 most powerful shifts that can transform how you approach investing into yourself. First is understanding the difference between costs and investments. Remember, what makes this most important is not the investment itself. It's your relationship to it and how you use it. Second is learning to calculate the true opportunity cost of inaction. In most cases, the price of not investing in yourself far exceeds the investment itself. And third is focusing on the return on identity rather than just the return on investment. Who you become through the process of investing in yourself is often more valuable than the immediate financial returns. So as we wrap up, I want to speak to you directly for a moment. Right now, you're at a decision point. You have 2 selves competing for control of your future. Your past self, who wants to keep you comfortable, safe, and exactly where you are right now, and your future self, who's ready to grow, expand, and become the person you're truly capable of being. Only one of these selves will win today. The question is, which one will you choose? And if you're feeling that tension between staying where you are now and taking a leap towards what's possible, I want you to know that's completely normal. Every successful entrepreneur I've ever worked with, including myself, has felt the same tension. The difference isn't that they don't feel fear. It's the decisions that they make despite it. So if you're ready to start making decisions from your future self, I'd like to invite you to take a concrete next step. I've opened up a limited number of spots for private consultations where we'll work together to identify exactly what's keeping you stuck in your business right now, uncover the specific identity shifts you need to break through, develop a clear roadmap for your next 4 months of transformation, and determine if working together is the right fit for both of us. This isn't a high pressure sales call. It's a genuine opportunity to get you clarity on your path forward, whether that's working with me or not. Now, you might be thinking, I'm not quite ready for this, or maybe I should wait until X happens in my business. Maybe I should wait until I hire the next team member or make a little bit more money. But let me ask you, is that your future self talking, or is that your past self? Because remember what we learned from Taylor's story, from Joanna's story, from Justin's story. There is never a perfect time to invest in your growth. Your future self understands that the best time to start transforming is always now. Now, here's something I've observed with hundreds of entrepreneurs, having worked with them. The cost of this delaying decision isn't just financial. Every day you spend operating from your past self's playbook is a day you're reinforcing that identity. If you're serious about transformation, don't let another week go by reinforcing the very patterns you're trying to break. To book your consultation, simply click the link in the description below. You'll answer a few questions about your business, your goals, and then select a time that works for you. Come prepared to be open, honest, and ready to explore what's truly possible. These sessions are in-depth, they're personalized. I want to understand exactly where you are now so I can help you get to where you want to go. And finally, before I leave you today, I want to share one final thought. The most final profound transformation I've ever witnessed, both in myself and in my clients, almost always comes down to this simple truth. Your future self is already within you, waiting for you to make the decisions that will bring them to life. Every time you choose to grow over comfort, you have expansion. There's an investment over cost and possibly over limitation. You take one step closer to becoming that future self. The journey isn't always easy here, but I promise you, it's absolutely worth it. Now, I look forward to connecting with you soon and helping you make the shift from where you are now to where you truly want to be. Thank you for investing your time with me today. I do this because I truly know where I was and because I care about you and I care about your growth. Now go make an investment in yourself that your future self would thank you for. Peace and love.